Hey everyone, welcome back to Pages and Pours. My name is Robert. I am filming this on Sunday night, November 12th, and I just wanted to give you a little update on my charity fundraiser for the month of November. I have challenged myself to ride virtually the St. Francis Way Trail, which goes from Florence, Italy, down to the Vatican, through Rome and into the Vatican. It's a 312-mile route. It's an old Roman road. And I am trying to ride that in the month of November for a couple of reasons. One is I haven't been riding much lately, and I'm trying to get back into it. And the second one is November is Diabetes Awareness Month, and I'm a long-term diabetic. I've been a diabetic for nearly 35 years now. And so I decided I would ride this as a challenge to myself, but also as a potential fundraiser for the American Diabetes Association. And they have an arrangement through GoFundMe where organizers like me can set up a GoFundMe page, and the proceeds go directly to the American Diabetes Association. They don't come to me at all. I don't have to touch any of the funds, and you don't have to worry about me misappropriating any of the funds. It is tax deductible because it's a charitable organization. And there's a link in the description below to the GoFundMe. So if you can afford, I know it's a tough time for a lot of people, if you can afford a few dollars, I would really appreciate the support and hope that the research eventually brings about some answers for a lot of people who suffer with this issue. The topic that I wanted to do tonight is kind of like the book tags that we do in the BookTube world. This was originally a series of 5 responses, 5 prompts that was on the Bad Axe Bourbon channel, but this was Mrs. Bad Axe Bourbon who did this. It's called the Pours Challenge. I saw it on the Bourbon School channel, and so I'll put links to both of those channels in the description box as well. The first one is called the Pour. What did you drink when you were poor and couldn't afford anything any better than that? And I actually was not a whiskey drinker until relatively recently. I experimented with a little bit of whiskey in college, but mostly I did not get into whiskey until about 2020 during the lockdown. And so for me, if I were going to choose a pour now, I would probably choose something like the Elijah Craig small batch bourbon. It's 94 proof, so it's got plenty of robust flavors. And for most people, this is under $25. I get this for $21. And so this is a very inexpensive but very high quality beginner bourbon. And so for a pour, you can't do much better than that. I'm not sure where to put these, so I'm going to slide them around. I hope they're still somewhat visible as I go through this. The second challenge is your illegal pour. In other words, what did you drink before you were legal? Well, I'm so freaking old that when I turned 18, I was legal. That was before they moved the law back to 21. So I was able to legally drink before I was finished with high school. So for me, illegal drinking was before I went to college. And I remember my very first experience with alcohol was on a Boy Scout camping trip. I was 13. The Scoutmaster's son brought some bourbon. I don't know what brand, no idea. And I'd never seen bourbon before. And he mixed it with root beer in a metal Boy Scout canteen and passed it around. And I had a sip or two of that and just thought it was just the most dreadful thing I've ever tasted. And then in high school, before I was legal, our cheap and easy thing that we wanted to drink was Andre's Cold Duck. I don't know why, but we did. We had those. They were the little bottles, though, not the big wine-sized bottles. And so I don't have any of those to show you because, of course, I don't drink any of that stuff anymore. When I was really poor in college, I think my first experience with whiskey was probably Seagram's 7, because I used to drink 7 and 7s when I went out and had to order something, because it was sweet and easy and very light. My first real experience with whiskey was Maker's Mark, and that's when I started drinking. I drank it on the rocks because I just couldn't handle any proof at all at that point. But just regular old Maker's Mark was my introduction to whiskey. So my illegal pour was probably Andre's Cold Duck or beer. We drank a lot of really lousy, cheap beer. When I was in college, and of course it was legal to drink then, I was on the lacrosse team my first 2 years in college, and we had a game every Saturday, most Saturdays, and then we would have another game. Let me back up. We had a game in our college division. We were not NCAA. At the time, we were the Southwest Lacrosse Association. So we would play the University of Texas or Baylor or something like that on a Saturday in our actual league game. And then we would play a semi-pro team on Sunday for the experience. They always beat us, but we won all our games in the college division. But we would have this huge, massive party Saturday night, and these guys would drink beer like crazy. One game, I'll never forget this. We were playing against a semi-pro team that was sponsored by the University of Arizona. They came to us. They were drinking beer on the sidelines during the game and still beat us. So that was kind of embarrassing. So I am not a huge beer lover, and probably because it's the lacrosse team memories, too much beer, way too much. But that's what we drank back when I was still illegal, because I was pretty young when I was illegal. Now, we're getting into some real pours now. The third one is your baller pour. Basically something that you would pull out to impress someone, perhaps. And for me, it depends on whether you're a Scotch drinker or a bourbon drinker. But if you're a Scotch drinker, I might pull out something like one of the Octomores. I have 2 Octomore bottles from last year and then one from this year. This is the 14.1. This is this year's edition of the Octomore. And it may be my favorite peated Scotch that I've ever had so far. It's just absolutely amazing. What I like about it is that it's just ex-bourbon maturation. It's not finished in wine casks or sherry casks or anything else. A lot of people like the 14.2 and 0.3 because they are finished in other casks. But I love the plain ex-bourbon maturation, and I just think this is just masterful. So if you're a Scotch drinker, I might pull out an Octomore. If you're a bourbon drinker, it seems like everybody's constantly hunting Stag. This is Stag Batch 18, which is the first batch of Stag after they dropped the Junior moniker. So no longer Stag Junior, now it's just called Stag. And I got a sample of this from an online friend months ago, and then finally found a bottle, and I haven't even opened it yet. It's going to be open soon. And finally found a bottle at a Total Wine in Kentucky. And for retail price, I won't pay $200, $300, $400 for a bottle of Stag when I know it's $50 in North Carolina. The problem is finding it. Well, I found one for $57 in Kentucky and snapped it up. So that might be my baller pour for a bourbon lover. Stag is really, there are more expensive bourbons than Stag and harder to find bourbons than Stag. But for me, Stag is a baller pour. The fourth one is your proud pour, and I'm not sure how you really define this. I think it's just something that you're really glad to have, maybe something you're not going to be able to find again, or something that's going to be really difficult to find, or just something that's really cool. And again, for me, it's whether it's a Scotch or a bourbon. If it's a Scotch, recently I bought a Talisker 18. I shouldn't have. It's too expensive. Diageo, you should be ashamed of yourself. But I love Talisker. Talisker was the first single malt that I fell in love with, Talisker 10. But I had a taste of Talisker 18 at my friend Eric Gunderson's house in Tennessee, and I saw one online at one of the places that I buy from occasionally. It's not available here in North Carolina, and I just bit the bullet and bought it, and it is just beautiful. So if you're a Scotch lover, the Talisker 18 is a proud pour for me. If you're a bourbon lover, this is a limited edition that just came out this year, the Baker's 13. I am a fan of Baker's 7, and I thought when the 13 got re-released, if I could ever find one, I would snatch it up and hope it's as good as I expected it to be. And it really is. I really love this. As you can see, I've already dipped into it a little bit. And so that one is hard to find. They may keep putting these out in the future. I don't know, but they're calling it a limited edition. So I'm not sure. So when I had the opportunity to buy one, I grabbed it. So that's my proud pour for bourbon. Now, the last one is really difficult for me. It's called your private pour. And the way the bourbon school people described it is this could be either something that you kind of hide and just drink for yourself in private, or it's something that you're ashamed to let anybody else know that you drink, so you only drink it in private. I didn't really go that way. I don't have a lot of people come over to share my whiskeys, which I think is unfortunate. I don't have very many local friends who are into whiskey at all. So when people come to share my whiskey, it's usually people from out of town. And my whole collection is open to whoever is here. I don't hide bottles from people. I don't save them. I try to open everything I have and sample from it every couple of months. And I invite people to drink whatever they want to drink, or if they want me to put together a flight of something, I'll put together a flight of something. So I don't really have anything that I hide and drink by myself, hoping nobody else will drink it. But I do have a couple that if I just want something really gorgeous, and depending on whether it's scotch or bourbon, that I can turn to, I picked two. One is hard to find. It's almost a unicorn now. The other one you can find almost everywhere. So I'll start with the easy one to find, and this is the bourbon. As I mentioned, I started with Maker's Mark, and the Maker's Mark 46 cask strength is just one of those bourbons that when I go back to it, it feels like coming home. It's just so good for me. I love the wheated profile. Now, for scotch, if I had to pick one distillery to drink for the rest of my life from Scotland, it would probably be Springbank. But this is the Springbank cask strength 12-year-old, which is almost impossible to find and getting more and more expensive. Not quite as expensive as the Octomore, but it's getting more and more expensive. But this is just an absolutely beautiful scotch. And so when I want something just to sit at home and just enjoy life, I'll pick up something like one of these. So those are my pours for the pour challenge. If you ask me to answer these same 5 questions again next week, I might have very different choices other than the ones about the illegal pour, because my history hasn't going to change. But I have lots of different bottles that I turn to for different types of reasons. But these just seem to fit the questions that were in this particular challenge, and I thought I would go through them and share them with you. Okay, my internet was down for 3 days earlier this week. And then finally on, Saturday morning, a technician came and discovered that the people who came to bury my cable, because it's a new internet service, didn't clean the end of the fiber. And so when they reconnected it, it was dirty and wasn't getting a clean signal, and I kept losing my internet. So he cleaned it up, reconnected it, and then all day Saturday and all day today, I've had good internet until about 3:30 this afternoon when it shut off again. So I don't know what's going on. So I don't know when I'll have internet access again to upload this video. If I try to do it with my hotspot, it takes a couple of hours, and I'm just not going to do that. But when I get internet again, I'll post this. Hopefully I can post it in time for Mondays. Usually around noon is when I post a video. But if not, you'll see it soon enough. Please support the American Diabetes Association Challenge if you can. The link's in the description box. The GoFundMe is there, and I'll keep you posted on my miles. Oh, I meant to give you my mileage already. I think I've ridden 86 miles so far, and I still have 200 and some odd miles to go. So I'm a little bit, if you just averages it out over 30 days, I'm behind that schedule, but that was intentional. I started off a little bit gently so I don't hurt myself, but now I'm up to about 14, 15 miles a day, so I'm catching up the miles that I should have done last week gradually. So I'm on schedule to finish before the end of November. Fingers crossed. All right, I'll talk to you again soon. Bye, everybody. Cheers.